this is someone who certainly serves. He is a Chicago police officer. Harvey Marlin is with us. How are you, sir?
How are you? Good evening.
Good, good. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Tell us about, before we talk about some of the things you're doing with the department, your dad was a veteran, right?
Actually, my sons, I have two sons.
Oh, you two sons. Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. My oldest son served in the Navy, the U.S. Navy. He was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia on the USS Roosevelt.
Okay.
He
Sure.
did full tour there, active duty. He's also a Navy reservist at this time,
Okay.
a little well over 10 years now. And my youngest son served in the U.S. Army. He was stationed in Fort Wainwright, Alaska, and he did a tour in Afghanistan. He's actually a combat veteran. There is a little distinct difference between our regular veterans and our combat veterans. The combat veterans we need to give extra care to and support.
I think that is great. That's wonderful. And I agree with you. You know, that's good. You are not a veteran.
I am not.
Okay. And I just think it's great. You are a police officer,
Yes.
and you're reaching out and working with all sorts of groups, and I just think that's a great thing. You are the president of the Chicago Police Department's Veteran Sailing Club. Tell us about that.
So it's the Chicago Police Sailing Association is the title, and yes, I am the president. It was started in 2016. I am a long-time sailor. I've been sailing for at least 15 years. I'm on my own third boat. Actually, before I started sailing on my own boat, I was a crew member on other boats.
Okay.
I didn't own a boat.
Uh-huh.
And that's one of the things that I'm trying to get everyone to understand is you don't have to own a boat to sail. All you need is the passion and the desire to learn. So I sailed for years before I actually owned my own boat. But what I thought when I was out there sailing is how peaceful it is and how
Yeah.
calming it is. I call it my religion.
That's great.
I do. And what I was hoping every time I'm out there sailing is to get officers out there, to get police officers out there to share an experience. And that's when I came up with the idea of the Chicago Police Sailing Association as an opportunity to draw police officers in and their families to learn how to sail.
Did your son have anything to do with that? The Navy?
Well, actually, it was my younger son who sailed with me the most.
Okay.
One particular year, he sailed with me the entire summer. He
Was this before he?
This was after he got out.
Oh, after he got out. That's
Yes.
what I was wondering.
Yes,
Yeah.
and one of his battle buddies that he served in Afghanistan with
Wow. Okay.
from the East Coast came and sailed with us as well. My youngest son also sailed with me during the Cuba race. We sailed to Cuba in 2017.
Oh, that's
and
got to
he
be
raced
great.
with me. He did. He raced with me then. There's a certain personality type for men and women that serve in the armed forces and law enforcement. And oftentimes when the work gets tough, they step forward. And I see that time and time again when the veterans are on the boat.
That's very interesting. Personality type. People who have served in the military or police.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That makes a lot. And I presume, I don't know the numbers, but many, many policemen are veterans.
Yes, there are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, there's a lot of black veterans. I mean, we always have the image that we have in our mind of that doesn't include black representation in the armed forces. Every war effort that the United States has had, there's been a black American that's fought in it.
Sure.
Even up to this day.
Right.
So there's several minorities that have represented the country. So yes, there are several police officers that are military veterans as well as young black officers.
You know, Officer Marlin, I'm sorry to hear that there are a lot of people who don't recognize that fact. We've had black veterans, as you just pointed out, in every war we've had.
That's right.
And, I hope, you know what America's Heroes Group was all about. That's why you're here today. But I hope people recognize that. I'm glad you brought it up because I just presumed that most people know that, and maybe you're right that they don't. But every war.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, I was just looking over something. Well, I won't get into that now, but about what some African American, And the point is, even though we had African Americans who were fighting wars, they were still discriminated against. And that's why some of them had to get in World War One. They got awards from the French because of the fact, you know what I'm talking
Yes,
about.
yes.
I
know, yes,
yeah,
very well aware.
Right,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
So it's something. So tell us more about what is going on with the sailing club. That sounds great.
So another aspect of it is there's a sailboat race that was also created by the Chicago Police Sailing Association. It's called the Gold Star Regatta. And the Gold Star Regatta is a sailboat race that supports the surviving family members of fallen officers. It's a fundraiser. So any funds that are raised during the race are used to support our surviving family members. In 2017, I had a boat manned by all veterans. And one of them was my good friend, John Lyle. We call him Jack. If you remember, that was a discussion that you and I had some time ago.
Right, exactly.
About Jack.
I do remember.
Yes.
Right.
I'm sorry to say that Jack has passed since our conversation.
Right.
Not too long ago, a few months ago. He was 98 years old.
Yeah.
He lived a good life.
Yep.
And he had no regrets. But Jack was at the helm aboard the sailboat Simple Justice. And I have a photo, if you're able to see it, on my iPad of the crew of the veterans that were on the boat, including Jack. Jack still sailed the entire summer last year. I believe his last sail was in September in 40 knots of wind. When everybody else didn't go out, Jack was out there.
He went out.
He was quite a daredevil, as a matter of fact. He was a great sailor.
Yeah. We're going to show. That's great.
So here's a photo right here. There's Jack in the middle.
That is great. Now, and this Gold Star Regatta, this is a great idea, Officer Marlin. It supports the Gold Star families.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Gold Star term, I'm sure you're familiar with it, but I'll say it for your listeners. The Gold Star term is a military term that identifies families that have lost members in the armed services.
Right.
So law enforcement uses the same term. We have our Gold Star family.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly. So that's what the Gold Star Regatta represents.
That's great. And that will be coming up. Will they have the regatta again this year?
Yes, it's an annual race.
That's what
it's
I
an
thought.
annual race. This is our third year.
Okay.
And it's June 15th of this year on a Saturday. It will be posted on Yacht Scoring, so sailors can register on Yacht Scoring. I'm not sure if the link is active yet or not, but at some point it'll be on Yacht Scoring. And we'll have a fundraising page so that people can donate to support our family members.
That's just great. But one thing you mentioned, Officer, and I agree. I've been fortunate enough to have friends with boats, and it's such a soothing thing.
It is.
When you mention that, it really is.
It is.
It's just a wonderful thing, and of course, when you can go out on Lake Michigan during the time when the fireworks or whatever, it's totally different world.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
yes, it is.
It is. It's great. And I guess a lot of folks, who started this? The sailing, the Veteran Sailing Club.
Oh, so the Chicago Police Sailing Association, what I did is I wanted to have the concept that we have teams. So we have a boat that's manned by all police officers, and then a boat manned by all veterans. I've been working on a boat with all Chicago Fire Department members.
Great.
That's been a challenge, but maybe they'll hear me and they'll step up to the plate.
I know a friend I'll talk to about that. Okay. Yeah.
I also have we have an LGBT group that's brand new this year.
Great.
It's separate from ours, but they have reached out to us for support because in the sailing community, we all support each other. And I believe they have a race called the Rainbow Regatta, which is at the end of the summer, sometime in September. So with the Chicago Police Department, I'm sure there are members that are LGBT.
Sure.
We want to put a boat together that are all LGBT police officers. So we're working on these concepts
Oh,
of
you
having
want a
these-
separate boat for?
Well, we
yeah.
have teams that are like we'll have
Yeah.
veteran teams,
Yeah.
police officer teams, fire
Right.
department teams.
Mhm.
The list is endless. So it's just to keep the support there and make it fun.
That sounds like a lot of fun. And the thing is, not only is it fun, but the great thing about it is the fact that there's going to be such a benefit to
It is.
people who really need the help.
It is.
Yeah.
It's also a sense of accomplishment. Although you get the spirituality of it and the peace of mind and the ease, to me, sailing is an art. It's something that you learn, you acquire. Some people view it as work, and it can be. It can be. It can be a tiring day, especially depending on the weather.
Yeah.
But when you accomplish what it takes to learn how to sail effectively, I mean, that's a great feeling. I mean, you'll come in at the end of the day, and your day is done. You're good. You feel great. You don't need to do anything else.
I think it's just great. Our guest is Chicago Police Officer Harvey Marlin, father of a veteran and president of the Chicago Police Department and Veterans Sailing Club. And I just love what they're doing. I think it's great. And you hear him, he's reaching out. Any of you folks who want to be involved, is there a number they would call?
So we do have a Facebook page, Chicago
Facebook
Police
page,
Sailing
good.
Association.
What is it? I'm sorry.
The Chicago Police Sailing Association.
Okay.
Messages can be left there. And let's keep in mind that all of this is operated out of Jackson Park Yacht Club.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Park Yacht Club also has a web page up as well.
Mm-hmm.
And long-term goals that we have that have not been set in place yet is to do a give back to the community, working with inner city teens, inner city youth.
So
they'll-
teach them
yes,
sailing?
yes,
Uh-huh,
and a
uh-huh.
mentoring.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is a lot of our young people are disconnected from how to spend their time. You know, it's either school or nothing. You know, there aren't a lot of services out there.
Mm-hmm.
And sailing is such a great thing for the mind and the spirit that if we could pull more young folks in to water activities, whether it's sailing or anything, it doesn't matter. It can, at the end of the day, it's like a baby. They're ready to go to bed. They're done.
Yeah.
So,
You know, it's so interesting you say that because that is very true relative to water sports. A lot of us aren't involved in that to the degree that we should have been. And it was funny, obviously, a couple of years ago, when I had a show here regularly during the week, Barbara Bird Bennett was my guest, who was the head of the Chicago Public Schools. And we had mentioned the fact that there had been a black woman that was elected head of the police department in Miami Beach. And they were happy about this because they weren't hiring a lot of African Americans, saying, well, they don't swim. And I made the comment to her that I learned how to swim in 3rd grade. And her comment to me was, did you go to a public school? And I said, yes, I did. But that pool was there for those white folks who moved out when my parents moved in, you know.
yeah.
And which is true, you know, and because I checked later and the pool hadn't, I won't get into the long story, but she did a great job in getting it put back.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't participate to the degree, and now hopefully that's changed, but what you're doing is just a great thing relative to water sports. Oh, my goodness, you know. Start talking about being in shape. You got to be in shape if you're going to be a good swimmer.
It's great exercise.
It is. It is great. It'll get you in shape.
It's great exercise,
Yeah. Well, and of course, with the YMCA's and so forth, I'm sure, Officer Marlin, that there are a lot of people who are doing that, you know, which is just great. Our call-in number is 312-374-8130. If you want any information, we are talking to Chicago Police Officer Harvey Marlin, who is the father of a veteran. This is America's Heroes Group, of course, and president of the Chicago Police Department and Veterans Sailing Club. So it also includes the veterans. He's got some pictures here that I hope you'll go to our website and see, because Manny is taking pictures of them, and they're just great, some great pictures that you'll want to see. So this is just group. So, what now? Sailing starts when? It's coming up soon, right?
Well, it's not a matter of when sailing starts; is when the harbors are open.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that's when you
great.
can, legally dock your boat without getting towed.
I got you.
So,
I got you. I'm
people
sorry,
are
I'm
bring-
asking the wrong question.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Just so I give proper information.
Yeah. Great.
Because you could technically, I'm sure some people probably sail today.
Oh, I got you.
They may have been out.
I
yeah.
got you. I got you.
So I
That's
believe
if you have a boat that you're towing to.
right,
Yeah,
exactly, because
yeah.
everyone is not paying for dockage, which is
Right.
again, there are ways to get on the water, and you don't have to have a brand new shiny boat. You can have an old boat, like my boat's an old boat. I just want to be on the water and be able to sail.
Sure.
So April 15th, the harbors allow you a courtesy of coming in a little early. They call it the early docking, but the actual season starts for docking May 1st.
Okay.
So then after
Okay.
that, you'll see many more boats come in.
Mhm.
But like I said, I'm sure there were boats out on the water sailing.
Sure. You can do that as long as you're not docked.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I
Right,
got you.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure. With and tomorrow, it's supposed to be 75 degrees.
Yes, there
or
will be
whatever.
sailors out there.
Oh,
yes.
absolutely.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Is yours a sailboat or
Sailboat.
sailboat?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we talking about sailboats only?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm glad I asked that.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is about sailing.
Yeah. This is about sailing.
Yes.
That's right. It's called the Sailing Club.
Yes.
Duh. Right.
No, it's okay.
Yeah. That's great. And that's really more of a sport anyway. That.
It is a sport,
Yeah.
especially when we talk about racing, which is what my sailing club tends to focus on, because that allows notice. Because if we just go out sailing, we're just a couple of guys on the boat
Yeah,
sailing.
yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
But if you enter a race, and now your boat name, your club name is out there.
Mm-hmm.
If you win, if you place, that's notice, and that gives you an opportunity to get the message out, which is what our conversation is.
That's great.
Any opportunity to get the message out so that people know what law enforcement, police officers go through, and their sacrifices they make.
Right.
That's why it's the focus on racing.
Great.
And then, again, sailors like to brag.
Of course.
I could tell you that I'm a better sailor than you, but how do I prove it?
Uh-huh.
So then we race, and then that's how
Excellent.
you prove it.
Excellent.
So we'll see who gets to the other side of the lake first, and then that's the guy that says, "Well, I'm a better sailor than you."
How many people normally, Officer Marlon, are on a boat?
Well, it depends on the size. You figure
Yeah.
in Chicago, the average size of a sailboat tends to be anywhere from 27 to 30, maybe 35 feet. That's your
Okay.
average window right there.
Uh-huh.
I mean, people do have 25-foot sailboats. There's a gentleman in our club. He sails on a 25-foot sailboat in all kind of weather. I have to tip my hat to him.
Okay.
His name's Ernie.
Okay.
I have to tip my hat. He's out there in that little 25-foot boat right with the rest of us. But anywhere from 27 to, say, 30, 35 is your average boat length for sailing. You do have larger boats, and there are smaller boats.
And how many people would be on?
You figure
Normally.
you could do a crew of 4.
Okay.
But
Because you got work to do
You do, but
as you're sailing.
yes, but then there's that people can get in each other's way
Okay.
because everybody's got a job to do.
Mhm.
So you're usually stationed in a certain spot on the boat, and if there's too many bodies on the boat, then you tend to start crossing over each other. But you can have 6 or 8 people on the boat
Oh, wow.
because there is a technique where, if you can imagine a boat under power of the wind, it's not directly level. It's a little sideways.
Sure.
The technical term is heeled. It's
Mhm.
heeling. The boat
Heeling.
will heel a little bit.
Mhm.
To counter that force, you want counterbalance. So if you have extra bodies, you'll have those sailors sit on the opposite rail to counterbalance the boat down
Gotcha.
to counter that force against the wind.
Right.
And if you can remember any photos you may have seen of
Yes.
people sitting with their legs over, we call those rail meat.
Rail meat.
Rail meat. You may not be actually performing any particular task at that time, but you are helping the boat go faster.
Your ballast.
Your ballast. There you go.
Exactly.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. I could do that. Oh, that's great. Because we obviously, officer, have seen the races. I mean, it just gets involved.
It is.
And the Mackinac race, is that the big one?
That's the largest freshwater race in the world,
Okay,
and it's
okay.
right here in Chicago.
Yes.
It's a very daunting race, as a matter of fact. It's well over 300 miles from here, from Chicago to Mackinac Island.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 3 to 4 day race for the smaller boats. For the larger race boats, because they're in a completely different category, they get there in a day, 2 days tops.
Sure.
You know, they're in,
Have you done that?
Oh, I've done the Mac race.
That's what
yeah.
I thought so.
It's
Yeah.
it's
You've
it's
done
not
it.
easy race. We tend to have weather, because 3 or 4 days is enough time for weather to change, and it could be a challenge. But the guys that do the Mac race, they do it every year.
Yeah.
There's their experience. Many of them have done it 20 years, 30 years. They
Wow.
have tons of experience, and you know they know what they're doing.
Of the number of people in this great group, Chicago Police Department Veterans Sailing Club, what's the balance there with officers? Well, of course, some police officers are veterans too. I was going to ask what's the percentage of veterans, but you've got.
You know what we could do. I could do some research, get some
Yeah,
numbers
that's
for
not.
you.
You got a number of them. That's all.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got.
Yeah, I
you-
don't
you
know.
welcome veterans.
But I do believe
Yeah.
it's extensive.
Yes.
Because you know, when I came on the job, I was working with Vietnam veterans.
Okay.
You know, guys from the 60s and 70s.
Sure.
That's who I worked with.
Right.
You know, when I started. So, and it just keeps going.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah. And you probably still have some people there from.
Oh, I'm
from,
sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
from
They're up in
now.
age, but
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
they're
but
around.
they're
Yeah.
still able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's great.